両高崎、さらわれた妹を探すため危険な町ハウスタウンに乗り込む。コバートガル、両の親友、そしてライフ、両と共にハウスタウンへ。ハウスタウンで彼らを待ち受ける者は
Hello everybody, I'm Red Fox, and welcome back to Mugen. In today's episode of Mugen, we're going to be having fighters from Grappler Baki face off against the fighters from the original arcade game, Art of Fighting. Now, some of you may not be familiar with the series, but for those of you that have heard of King of Fighters, you'll probably see a lot of familiar faces, as those games share a lot of the same fighters. Now, of course, as I've been doing in the past, where I've been taking a character from Grappler Baki who's similar to the main protagonist of the series they're going up against, and having them fight through that game. For the Art of Fighting, the most similar character I could find, because the main protagonist is a young, you know, kind of, maybe not arrogant, but very brash karate fighter, we of course have Katsumi Orochi, who will be fighting Ryuhaku Todo at the Karuta Dojo. So let's go ahead and get that set up now. So we'll do the first palette for Katsumi, and if I remember correctly, Todo's correct palette is this one. So we're gonna go ahead and head to his dojo, give him home field advantage. If I remember correctly, his Mugen isn't the best in the entire world. But Katsumi isn't... well, Katsumi's kind of middle of the ground. I'd say he's not very consistent. Sometimes he has better showings than Retsu, and on other times he's a lot worse. But I don't think he'll have any problems with Todo. I think he'll be able to get through most of this story, most of these fights, with little to no difficulty. As we see, he's like basically juggling Todo with like zero difficulty. I will say Todo got one hit in. He got that shoulder throw early on in the fight, and that's actually kind of impressive because Todo's Mugen, very passive. He's decent at defending himself, but he usually gets killed by chip damage without making any significant impact on the enemy's health bar. And as you can see, he's not really holding much of a candle to Katsumi here, but I do expect one character, it's kind of sad to say, but I do expect one character to be able to beat Katsumi hands down. You know, there will be no competition. Every test I've run so far, Katsumi has not been able to stand a snowball's chance in hell against that guy, but so that we're not sitting here forever, there is a special version of Katsumi. I might have mentioned him in past videos. If you don't know what I'm talking about, maybe go give those a watch, check them out, see if I did. Even if I didn't, they're pretty good videos anyway, so, you know, do that whenever you can, but I may have mentioned in past videos that I have a special version of Katsumi called the Lethal Weapon, or the Ultimate Weapon, or something like that, and he is a little bit stronger, you know, just a smidge, but we'll get to that road, or we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, rather. For now, Katsumi is going to be taking on, let's see here, not you, but Jack Turner at max bar. So let's go ahead and get to that. I'm not sure if this palette is the correct one. Again, if you haven't watched any of the past videos.
Yuri, max bar.
You may not know this about me, but I'm a little bit anal about making sure that the palettes are the, like, the original, the one that we typically see the character, you know, in. I don't want no, like, Mario 64 Rainbow Road palette swap here. So Jack's putting up a pretty decent fight. If I remember correctly, I don't think he practices a specific martial art. He's kind of, for those of you that are Grappler Baki fans, he's kind of a Richard Filth type. I'm not sure if he's a bouncer, but I do know I mean, this is his map. He frequents bars at least to some degree, but it seems that Katsumi had no difficulty in taking him out in round 1. Let's see if he can put up a better fight in round 2. He put a couple of... he was laying paws on my man, but Katsumi was, or as the Mugen has him listed, Kathumi, must have been narrated by Mike Tyson there. He seems to be putting in some pretty fine work here. He's kind of, I love how he's, okay, for those of you that don't know, that was a counter, and he has horrible timing for the counter. I think I've seen him land it once. Yeah, he failed to do it again there. There's his Ippon Zeonagi, or Ippon Zeoi, that he used on Hanayama when Hanayama punched him so hard he threw up. So, you know, Jack's doing a pretty decent job here. He got him down to about 75% health, but we're not anywhere where we need to be worrying about Katsumi losing here. But he does have that counter, and the counter does a shit ton of damage, but rarely does he ever actually land it. So let's see, I think we're continuing on to another normal fight. Actually, no, this will be our first special fight. So the way Art of Fighting works is, I think it's similar to King of Fighters and Fatal Fury, which they're all kind of in the same universe. Every 2 fights, at least on the original arcade games, every 2 fights you fight, you know, Toto, and then you fight Jack, and then you have a special round where you get to play a little mini-game. Well, instead of doing the mini-game, and I kind of did this last time in Fatal Fury, I don't know if I actually mentioned that I was doing it, but this is the general idea. Basically, instead of doing that, we'll have Katsumi and his original palette. Normally, you do not fight Robert Garcia in the game. He is simply a playable character, but he is not one that you fight against. It's the same thing as in Fatal Fury, you had Terry Bogard, Andy Bogard, and Joe Higashi. You could play as them, but you couldn't fight them in the game anyway. Or I should say, the original arcade game. So what I do is I basically set them up to fight. Here we go. And because they don't have a stage for Robert Garcia or our main character Rio, or any of the main characters from Fatal Fury, I just have them fight on a random map. I've got like 90 or like 100 plus maps that it could land on. I've got some pretty interesting ones, but yeah, that'll be our, I guess, our substitute for our special rounds. So let's see how this goes. Alright, I do believe this is a Street Fighter map? I want to say this is Adon's map from Street Fighter 1, but right off the bat, Robert's putting in the work here. Okay, alright, he just did like a machine gun kick, and okay, Katsumi's putting up a bit of a fight here. He's definitely not one to go down without a fight, except for one character on the roster. He totally destroys him, but I did not know that, you know, honest, cross my heart, I did not know that Robert was going to be this dead even with him, but fortunately, it would seem that the machine gun kicks that Robert let loose on Katsumi's skull were enough to wake him up, and with about 25% health, he was able to take round 1. Let's see how round 2 goes. Both of them seem to specialize in kicking. That's not to be too big of a surprise. For those of you that don't know anything about the Art of Fighting or this character, Robert Garcia, he too is a practitioner of the same karate, or karate style, I should say, that the main character, Ryo, practices. As a matter of fact, he is like the Ken Masters of this series. He is the foreigner who is the rival of the main karate practitioner. Unfortunately, with him slumped up in the breedable and submission position there, Robert was not able to put up anything of a fight in round 2. Let's commend him for his round 1 performance and leave it at that. So that was our first special fight. For our second, or I guess our second set of fights, I was going to say our second special fight, but we're not quite there yet. We have our first Kung Fu practitioner. We'll be having Katsumi face off against Li Pai Long. So let's get to Li Pai Long here, and his map is Chinatown. Shocker, absolute. I would have never guessed it in a million years. I think it's just Li is the stage. Is the name of the stage there? Yeah, here we go. So if I remember correctly, Li is even more inconsistent than Katsumi in that Katsumi's, like, in one round he'll be hot garbage. He will get his ass kicked. And then in another round, he'll do pretty damn good. Well, Li is like that with entire matches. In one match, he'll get trounced, but then in another match against somebody even stronger, he'll totally dominate them. This time around, he's at about 30% health and a Mach Punch Barrage. Oh, okay, I was about to say is enough to finish him off, but, you know, the result is the same. After a couple strikes following the Mach Punch, Lee is no longer with us in round 1, but he was able to get a couple of shots in on Katsumi. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Lee woke up and chose violence today. It doesn't seem like we have the almighty Lee the Destroyer, because he just got slammed into the ground, and he doesn't seem to be putting up much of a fight. Hasn't even landed his first strike of the match. He did hit Katsumi with an attack, but Katsumi blocked it. I'm not sure if he got chip damage. He just landed his first strike not too long ago. But unfortunately, Katsumi with all of his karate kicks and flips, which honestly I'm kind of surprised we don't see a lot of these agile strikes from Katsumi in Grappler Baki, like that backflip upside down kick. I don't think I've ever seen him do that. But they seem to be serving him well in this Mugen, and for those of you that don't know, fun fact, if I remember correctly, there's a character, and we'll get to him later on, but there's a character in this game who's like the final boss of the entire game, literally called Mr. Karate, and, you know, plot twist for a game that's like 40 years old or something at this point, Mr. Karate is actually the father of the main protagonist in disguise. So he's wearing like one of those Kingu masks or whatever. Can't remember what they're called, but it's the same masks that Tanjiro's teacher from Demon Slayer wears. I'll actually show you in a second here. No reason not to give you guys a visual aid here. That is the father of the main protagonist. He's also a master of karate. The same style of karate that he taught both Robert Garcia and his son, and also their daughter, his daughter, if I remember correctly. But the important part here is, if I remember correctly, Katsumi and Doppo both, their Mugen character, their movesets and their sprites are based on a sprite from Mr. Karate. I'm not sure from which game it is. And also Shiozan Matsuo, for those of you that are familiar with Garden, his Mugen on my little Mugen setup here is also based off of Mr. Karate, so that's fun. You know, it's basically they just swapped the heads and they changed the movesets to match the characters. So they added moves, they modified moves, but that is the brilliant ingenuity of the mod creator for, or I guess the Mugen creator for Katsumi, Doppo, and Shiozan, which I do believe all three of them were made by Tokage. If not all three, I know for a fact that Katsumi and Doppo were. But anyway, let's get on to the next fight. That's going to be King at L'Amour Cafe. Now, I don't know if a lot of you know the secret about King, but again...
Scene 4, L'Amour.
Spoiler for like a 40-year-old game. King's a woman. King does not look like a woman because she's dressed like a man. You know, she's got the very stereotypical, you know, dress shirt tucked in at the tail of the shirt and the pants. You know, you wouldn't be able to tell because the clothes are kind of androgynous. But yeah, King is a lady. If you beat her, I'm not sure if it's exclusive to the second round or if it's the first. Oh, he almost landed the counter. I really thought he was going to get it there. I'm telling you, the damage is insane. If you beat her on either the first or second round with a special move, the big twist reveal happens. Her shirt bursts open, because that's definitely what happens when you get punched really hard. Your shirt explodes, and she got boobies. So, I can't put those on YouTube. No, I'm kidding. She has a bra on. But, yeah, I'm not too impressed with King so far. Maybe, no. I was like, maybe there'll be a comeback. And thank you, Mugen Map, for censoring anything that could, and probably...
Yuri.
Would go wrong there. No, I'm pretty sure it's not an issue, but yeah, King did not stand much of a chance. I'll say King is usually a little bit better than that, but for those of you that were waiting for a challenge, we finally got into it. The only fighter on this entire roster that I think has a near 100% chance of beating Katsumi is none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Ryo, the main character of the Art of Fighting series. So, let's see if Ryo Sasaki, with his style of karate... in Goro's lair from Mortal Kombat 1, not to be confused with the Mortal Kombat 1 that's about to come out, which I'm incredibly hyped for. You know, I'm about to get Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1 is coming out, Tekken 8, God, I cannot wait. I'm still crossing my fingers that Tekken 8 gets its Baki cameo character, but, you know, all of those great games are there, but we got the original Mortal Kombat 1, Goro Lair, which will be hosting the Katsumi vs. Ryo fight, and this is what I'm talking about, right? The whole time I've been talking pretty much... Oh, okay, that was unfortunate, but that was almost mirroring what happened with Pickle. Katsumi was on the offense almost the whole time, but Ryo, because he knows how to place his shots, and because he hits so hard, and he starts off with 3 bars of meter there, he typically is able to beat Katsumi pretty easily. Now, Katsumi busted out the hitless blow in an attempt to even the playing field, but what he did not take into consideration... Oh, damn, he got hit with Ryo's, I don't know what it's called, but it's his fireball move, it's his version of the Hadouken. But Katsumi tried in round 1 to bust out that hitless blow, but even though he did a shit ton of damage, he killed himself with the self-damage, and Ryo was able to beat him pretty handily in the second round. I've got to admit, that's probably the best performance I've seen from Katsumi against Ryo, but unfortunately, I know if I run it back, Katsumi is not going to be able to win, so introducing the ultimate weapon, Katsumi Lethal Weapon Orochi, and he will be fighting against Ryo, and in the same vein that the first match was not much of a fight, although, like I said, it was probably the best performance from Katsumi against Ryo that I have ever seen. This will be even more of a stomp. It is unfortunate that there's no middle ground. This is a pretty cool map. My man Ryo's taking it seriously. He kicked off the Babylon 12s, but unfortunately, no matter how hard he takes this, he is not going to be able to win. Katsumi finishes it off in 6 seconds with a Mach Punch Barrage, 7 hits, and Ryo didn't even see it coming. This is probably more accurate in terms of not how the fight would go. I know if I said that a Baki character could beat a fighting game character, somebody would probably come to my house and kill me. But this is probably a more accurate version of Katsumi in terms of, you know, he does that weird shuffle walk in the normal Mugen because the AI is a little dumpy. So seeing him in his element, I guess, is pretty interesting. But because the damage go crazy, he's super fast, and I think he, like, regens meter automatically. All of those taken into account, my man is just an unstoppable beast, so I don't like to bust him out too often, but I know that if I've run these tests before just to make sure the characters work, to see what I'm working with in terms of how the characters work, you know, if the Mugens are any good. I do testing before I run these videos, and not a single time where I've run a test has Katsumi even done as well against Ryo as he did in this video. So, Ryo has been defeated. Unfortunately, he will not be able to save Yuri from Mr. Big and Mr. Karate, who, you know, Katsumi will take up the mantle and save his sister for him, but it turns out he you know, his sister doesn't really need saving. But we're going to be fighting Mickey Rogers in the downtown stage next. Let's see. Mickey Rogers, there he is. I'll tell you, don't expect much, okay?
Team live downtown.
Mickey is probably one of the most disappointing Mugens out of them all. If I remember correctly, Mr. Big is actually pretty impressive, which I hope he would be. He's basically the main bad guy of this game. He's like the right-hand man of Geese Hauer, but my fault with him is that, you know, he's not the final boss of the game. Mr. Karate is. And Mr. Karate, just like with Fatal Fury, how Geese Howard was the most disappointing character because he was incredibly weak, Mr. Karate in this Mugen is hot trash. His AI is really bad. And what is happening? They appear to be stuck. We'll give them a couple of seconds to figure it out. If not, I will, okay. Alright, so Mickey is the one to break this weird, like, deadlock they were in, where he was charging at full, and Katsumi is going to... Oh! He's got a pixel of health left. He's gonna take the round with a Mach Punch into an Ippon Zeoi. Yeah, actually, if I'm being entirely honest, Mickey did pretty well that round. I'm usually incredibly disappointed with Mickey's Mugen, but he threw a couple of punches. He got in there. He was, you know, he was putting up a good offense. But for those of you that don't know, if I remember correctly, Mickey is supposed to be this game's, you know, de facto Mike Tyson. Every single, like, game in the 90s had a Mike Tyson. Every single fighting game, I should say. We got another Mach Punch barrage to bring Mickey within an inch of his being knocked out, and then of course Katsumi, having not taken a single bit of damage that round, is going to take... the win. Yeah, that's more par for the course for Mickey. It's unfortunate, every single one of these Mugens so far have seemed to do worse in round 2, as opposed to, you know, you'd think, I guess you could argue it either way. You'd say either round 2, they're exhausted from round 1 and they're not as hyped, but also in round 2, you'd think they're more desperate and they're more willing to pull out all the stops. Anyway, let's get Katsumi ready, and who is up next? None other than John Crowley at the Guardian. He is our Guile for Art of Fighting. Most of these characters have an archetype, right?
The Guardian.
And Street Fighter kind of set the scene for these types of fighting game archetypes, but a lot of them are based, at least loosely, on real fighters that were active in the 90s, hence me mentioning earlier, almost every 90s fighting game had a Mike Tyson, right? You have Jackson Briggs in Mortal Kombat 2. I guess you could say he's the, wow, Crowley did not even last. He got a single hit in. I take it back. Mickey is bad, but John Crowley is definitely the worst. He's never won a fight. Anyway, you can say that Jax is Mortal Kombat's Mike Tyson, the closest thing to him, because he's primarily a boxer, since he's got those metallic arms, he's got his cybernetic arms. And then, of course, you have Balrog, whose name in the original Street Fighter, or the original translation, was literally Mike Bison, or M. Bison. For those of you that don't know, between Bison, Vega, and Balrog, they had to swap the names around because they didn't want any Mike Tyson controversy. Anyway, Crowley didn't even last long enough for me to finish my thoughts, so we're just gonna... Go ahead and move on to the next special fight. We have Katsumi Orochi, and this is not part of the normal roster of Art of Fighting, the original Art of Fighting game, but Rugal is from the same universe, so we're gonna have Katsumi Orochi fight against one of the strongest Mugens there is, Valmer Rugal. We're gonna be taking it to a random map. This will be the last of our special fights. So let's see how they do. We have some interesting stuff going on in the background. We have some Iori Yagami test tube babies. We have some random scientists standing there. Katsumi's actually doing pretty good already. Okay, I think I can, like, manage a story. I just saw Ryo off to the side, off to the left of the screen. So we can say that Valmar Rugal has interrupted the attempts of Katsumi to save Yuri Sasaki, Ryo's sister, by kidnapping all the fighters, and now he is trying to kidnap Katsumi to, I don't know, do this, I guess. Oh my god. My man just Kamehameha'd him off the face of the planet. That's 115 hits. Bro, stop, he's already dead. My guy. This is the Valmar Rugal that I want to see come out to play. I've done testing with Valmar Rugal, and keeping in mind, this is palette number 12. So this is, in all, like, honesty, this should be the strongest version of the Valmar Rugal I have downloaded. So he should be totally stomping Katsumi, but for whatever reason, I find that my Valmar Rugal, the one I have downloaded, is not great. The AI is lackluster. So I don't know if, you know, I've heard that Valmar Rugal is one of the strongest, he's like a benchmark for, like, some of the strongest Mugens out there. So I don't know if he's just not as good as everyone's saying, or if mine is, like, a Walmart brand AI, but I don't think he's ever even beaten Palette 1 Yujiro. So this is the first time I've ever had them fight, and it was pretty competitive in the first round, but when Valmar started busting out things like gravity wells to finish off the second round and Kamehamehas to finish out the first round, there wasn't much hope for Katsumi. So we're gonna run that back, but with Ultimate Weapon Katsumi versus Palette number 12, Valmar Rugal. Let's see. Alright. So we got so it seems that that my man Orochi? I'm not incredibly I see Gonitsu back there and Geese and Krauser. Anyway, Katsumi is totally destroying Rugal this time around. It's all about the, well, I was gonna say it's all about the length of the name because Katsumi's got like an entire, like, the entire screen's devoted to his name there. But to be fair, Katsumi Orochi still took up, like, by itself, still took up more space than Valmar Rugal. Anyway, this is to be expected, you know, nobody beats the ultimate weapon. Perhaps I stand correct. Oh, never mind, I was about to say, oh, it's a spoke too soon moment. Rugal is definitely putting up the last modicum of a fight, but unfortunately, Katsumi hit him so hard he regenerated. That's on some Majin Buu type shit from Dragon Ball, so Kamehamehas, no problem. You're not the only one with Dragon Ball powers. Anyway, we're gonna switch back to normal Katsumi and finish off our last two fights, one against the final bad guy of the original Art of Fighting arcade game, and that'll be Mr. Big. And that's gonna be in the factory, and then after this we will move on to the final fight of the original arcade game for Art of Fighting, and that will be Katsumi Orochi versus the incredibly disappointing Mr. Karate at the Karate Gym. In hindsight, Ryo probably should have realized that the man who has similar hair to his father and dresses similarly to his father other than the mask and practices the exact same style of martial arts as him, it's probably his father. Well, anyway, oh, there it is! You guys didn't get to see how massive the damage is, but his quadruple median line strike attack, where he kicks 4 times down the center line, the median line as they call it in traditional martial arts, at the 4 vital points. You guys didn't get to see how much damage it does because, you know, Mr. Big only had like 5% health left, but it will take out like 25% of your whole health bar. And to balance it out, Katsumi just cannot land those counters to save his life. But this is probably... Oh, I thought he was about to do it again. I was like, I will shut my mouth. I haven't been right about a single thing since I started this video. This is an incredibly competitive match so far. I think Mr. Big might take it. Oh, my first prediction to come true. I really thought I was going to be wrong again. Alright, Mr. Big is definitely... Mr. Big is our de facto final boss, by the way. I hope you guys are excited by this competitive match, because Mr. Karate will be an absolute joke to face off against. But, I mean, Katsumi's busting out actually timed counters. He's busting out combos with the Mach Punch. Mr. Big is not putting up too much of a fight this time around, but that first match where he actually beat Katsumi, he's the first Mugen on the entire list, other than the 2 incredibly powerful ones, that being Palette 12 Valmar Rugal, and of course Ryo Sasaki, the main character of the game. Mr. Big was the first person to actually take a round. Mr. Big is one of the only normal Mugens for Art of Fighting that was able to beat Katsumi, so very impressive. That was actually a pretty fun match, and just so that you guys don't leave the video too happy, too impressed, here's a very disappointing match. Let's take it to Mr. Karate's stage. Stage number 86. Let's do it. Alright, here we go. If this is, like, incredibly pathetic, I might run it back with Palette 12, Mr. Karate, to see if that changes anything, but depending on whether or not you actually see that fight, you'll know if it was any different. If Mr. Karate puts up any more of a fight, then of course I'll include it in the video, but I mean, my man just got Mach punched to death in the corner. All that blood on the ground is probably his. Like, he got his ass beat up and down this stage with, like, no any kind of resistance at all. My man did not bust out the... I don't remember the name of their style of karate, but I want to say it's just Sasaki Ryu. It's the Sasaki style of karate. Anyway, oh, no, that's just him charging. He's charging when he already has 3 bars from a round and a half of getting his ass kicked. That's pretty much... Oh my god, he landed 2 hits! That's probably the highlight of the entire video. He actually did something. I didn't even know Mr. Karate could do that. I mean, everyone got a hit in today, I think. Toto got a hit in when he usually doesn't. Mickey got a hit in when he usually doesn't. Crowley got a hit, and that's unheard of. So even Mr. Karate, I think it's a little more disappointing for Mr. Karate because he's supposed to be such a monster. He's supposed to be the dopo of Art of Fighting. But unfortunately, at least this Mugen did not live up to his legacy. But thankfully, Katsumi Orochi was able to win the day and save Yuri, even though she wasn't actually in any danger because she was secretly being protected by the most powerful person in the game, Mr. Karate, even though, double plot twist, he's secretly one of the weakest people in the game because his Mugen sucks ass and his AI is trash. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this episode of Mugen. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, remember to leave a like, comment about what you liked and what you want to see next, subscribe to the channel if you want more Mugen content, more Grappler Baki, more fighting game stuff. If you guys want me to play Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, Mortal Kombat 1, any of those awesome games that are coming out soon on the channel, let me know in the comment section down below. Be sure to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of the videos coming up, like these brilliant Mugen videos. I think the next one we have up to the bat is Grappler Baki versus Samurai Showdown, so that'll be a fun one. It'll be like the, for those of you that enjoyed Bakido, where Musashi shows up and totally trances everyone, it'll be kind of like that. It'll be the fist versus the sword. So, I mean, we'll get to that when we get to that, but again, thank you all so much for watching. I've been Red Fox, and this has been another episode of Mugen. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.